It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Well, you can see on the Sharp Interactive board, I got this PowerPoint slide up here. I'm going to talk about that in a second, folks. But I have to do a warning to the executives of some of the OEMs. So today we're going to talk about some of the nonsensical noise around these rebates that OEMs talk about. So I would suggest, like, if you're one of the executives maybe for Rico, that maybe instead of watching today's episode, go watch a rerun of the Tuesday Rico guy because it'd be much more comfortable for you. If you're with Konica Minolta, maybe the same kind of thing. Actually, maybe the Konica Minolta executives could go watch the Rico Tuesday guy too, because, you know, Konica and Rico kind of like they're not really making a whole lot of money. Maybe the reality is they'll end up coming together to try to make some more money between the two of them, get to know each other a little bit, take the time during today's episode. Because we're going to talk about something that's driving me out of my mind when dealers talk about these rebates that the OEMs give them, and that's the reason that they can't use and look for non-OEM toner. The reality of it is dealers need to mix OEM toner with non-OEM toner because it'll definitely improve their bottom line. And I have in the green room, I got in the Sharp Interactive green room, a special guest. We're going to bring him out here in a second. But ladies and gentlemen, this slide, I want to go through it really quick with you. You know, remember all the noise that the OEMs, well, some of them still do it, talking about how if you put a non-OEM toner machine, it'll blow it all up and all these crazy threats they've been giving you for decades. But then we have the supply chain issue and the whole world changes, right? We got our friends over at Canon telling users how to bypass printer and ink DRM. We don't have any chips, so here's how you can bypass that and use a non-OEM toner. And at the same time, you know, Canon, they like to sue a lot of people about toner. We got Konica. Dump it in from one bottle that's empty into the other one. Remember that? I did the video back there going out dumpster diving for empty toner bottles, dump it in one, dump it in the other. Crazy stuff, these OEMs. Instead of bleeding toner, Konica's bleeding cash. Remember the days, you know, everybody would say, oh yeah, we bleed toner because we're in the print business, right? Well, I don't know. They're not bleeding a whole lot of toner now unless you can pull the empty bottle out of the trash can. But here's the reality, folks, you know. One thing that this supply chain crisis has done with these OEMs, it's allowed the OEMs to practice doing YouTube videos. I mean, we see them on the show with the guy with the hat talking about the supply chain things. They're doing their own videos talking about supply chain stuff. They like to do these videos. I saw a video of the Rico executive at the BTA meeting. Of course, that video kind of sounded like it was 1990. He was still kind of telling people that non-OEM toner would blow up the machines. So without any further ado, I want to bring my good friend from the green room of the Sharp Interactive board, Chris Pollock. Chris Pollock, come on out here. We're going to talk about this toner because we did some math. How are you doing, Chris?
I'm doing good, Ray. How are you today?
I'm doing great. You know, Chris was in the green room, so he wasn't able to hear, you know, the beginning of the show. We have it quiet back there so they can have their coffee and stuff and just kind of relax. But anyway, Chris, I was telling the audience about the OEMs and their constant fight, you know, to keep the dealers from using non-OEM toner and all this crazy stuff. But I reached out to you because I said, this is just nuts. I mean, are these rebates even real? How the hell do you get a rebate when you can't even buy the machines from them because they don't have enough machines to sell the dealer? So is this finally the time that the dealers are saying, okay, we got to start questioning some of this insanity?
Yeah, no, it's a very good point, Ray. I mean, a lot has changed in the past year, especially for dealers, just with the supply chain issues and costs of shipping and all the delays going up. And what we've seen about three things with how the dealers have rebates these days. We noticed that they still have these rebates that they could hit. You know, they didn't change much about target numbers or anything like that, although now the percentages of the rebates that they gave were about half of what they were before they went through all these supply chain issues and everything that were driving up the costs of shipping. What? And we also seen some OEMs that, that instead of maybe just the rebate, they like to give discounts up front, depending on a purchase size or category of where machines go. And very similarly now, those discounts are about half of what they used to be before all this was going on. And we also see some OEMs that haven't changed that much. However, now they're raising the bar on the dealers to do more business and making it more difficult to even hit these. So rebate thing may not have changed, but the OEMs are giving less of them out because they're so much more difficult for everybody to hit. So
the bottom line is the dealers have got to do the math on the rebate. Quit taking
they
these.
do.
So,
I mean,
this is
you
the
really
ridiculous.
gotta know where you stand, and we start to hear that from dealers recently, because when you think about it, with the fiscal year starting in March, a lot of dealers are getting close to that halfway point, and now they're starting to take a look at where they stand on getting this rebate. And there are a number of people who are seeing that it's going to be a struggle, and they're starting to realize that it doesn't make much sense to keep chasing that if they're not going to get a rebate. They got to do something that's going to help their dealership.
Well, we did some math together, and I want you to pull up this slide really quick because, folks, you know, we took some machines and we made some assumptions. We got the model numbers. We show you the price of the OEM toner versus the Pollock and Pollock toner and how you could save some money. And Chris, this is just it was just a powerful slide presentation. And we're getting Chris here to open this up. Here we go.
So here's an example up here that we had for a popular Rico model. That's about half a dozen models that are actually discontinued machines. So,
okay.
So people probably have a lot of these machines out in their machine base. And we took an example that for each machine, you probably use 2 black toners and 1 of each cyan, yellow, magenta during a year, conservatively. And you can see the total cost of toner going to the machine is a difference of about $200 per machine.
So it wouldn't be anything for a dealer to have 1,000 because you got 1, 2, 5 or 6 different models. I mean, some of our friends have literally thousands of machines in the marketplace. So what if they had 1,000 machines of those models?
Yeah, if you had a lot of machines, this is the impact that you see on that for 1,000 machines. We said it was 200 per machine, so you can see it's 200,000.
So 200,000. This is insanity to me. So we have dealers out there that are trying to diversify, transition into IT services, one of the big things I talk about. And I'm thinking to myself, you could take like 7 different models of your machines, replace the OEM toner, save $200,000 a year, which would easily pay for maybe some human capital so you could go out in the marketplace and deliver remarkable IT services. And you got the money from the freaking toner bottles. Chris, this is amazing stuff. And, I asked you to put up one more slide, but before we do that, I want to just pre-emphasis. So I was talking to Chris, and Chris is in a great position. And I believe that Pollock and Pollock will be, well, I'm going to tell your secret, but basically Pollock and Pollock is going to be the new bank for dealer owners. So right now we know the Fed is raising the rates, credit lines are going to go up. But if you meet with Chris Pollock, the banker, basically he's going to give you money. And here's the beauty of it. You don't even have to pay it back. So you're going to fill out the forms that are going to share your model numbers and your volumes, and then Chris will give you the money. He'll say, hey, here's the money for you. All you got to do is come and get it. All you got to do is act. Chris, pull up my last slide. I got to show this because this is the reality.
Sure, hold on.
It's so amazing to me that we have bucketfuls of money sitting there waiting for dealers in the worst time our industry's ever had, this whole supply chain crisis thing. So I put together this little slide here. It says the Encyclopedia Array. Let me just read a couple of definitions. Print OEM rebate. Here's my definition of that. A complete distraction to realities for all dealers who cannot do math. I'm sorry if I offended some of you, but learn how to do the math. Hire some young kids. They know how to do this crazy math, right? Pollock and Pollock, a financial resource of free money providing hundreds of thousands of dollars to dealers to use in diversification strategies. You can see the new bill with Chris's picture on it. Ladies and gentlemen, will you please pay attention to this? Chris, you can come back to me. Will you pay attention to the realities that are all around you and how you could put money into your bottom line, take that money and invest in your business, change your business in our ever-changing world? Chris, it was so great to have you on today's episode. It's always exciting to be able to share ways that dealers can save some money. Is there anything you want to add before we end this show?
Yeah, I would say one thing, that now more than ever, this is a time for dealers to make sure that they've got an alternative OEM strategy.
Amen.
I mean, actually, with last year going through the supply chain issue, that was that was a hard lesson for everyone to learn that didn't already have an alternative OEM strategy. And I would tell people too, don't forget that too quickly, because I don't think this is over yet. They're still talking about these supply chain issues going through the end of this year, and it's been the summertime, and it's been it's not been as crazy now. We've only got a week or so left in the summer. People are coming back from their vacations, but once we come back from that Labor Day weekend, it's going to be fast and furious. And I think you're going to see that once the activity boosts up again, that you might start seeing some of these supply shortages come in.
I agree. And here's what I'll tell you: you might not have a alternative supply mindset, but those OEMs do. Wouldn't it be nice if you could go to all the OEMs and they had to tell you where they were getting toner from when they had crises? Because if you think they weren't going outside the box a little bit, you're all crazy. Because everybody watching me knows this: status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck in status quo, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Thanks, Chris.
Hey, thank you, Ray.